Alrighty, well, today we're going to talk about waiting on the Lord. So it's kind of appropriate that we had to wait there for just a second. Now there's some idea behind the idea of wait. You know, when I first read this verse, let me read it for you here. It's in Isaiah chapter 40, verse 29 through 31. Now I know this is familiar to you guys, but I want to read this. It says, He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength. Even youths shall faint and be weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. But they who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. What a promise. And we've seen that. I've seen it most of my life. This verse, but this idea of waiting, I've wondered about that one. You know, when I was younger, I thought waiting meant sitting around not doing anything until something happened. Then I found out that really isn't the truth. Like, for instance, this weekend, my wife is in Oklahoma, and I'm going to tell you, I am waiting for her to come home. She's coming back to me on Tuesday. That's what we have planned at least, and I am waiting for that to happen. But in the middle of that, there's stuff I got to do, right? Like yesterday, I cleaned the church, and tomorrow I'm going to work, and Tuesday I'm going to work, and hopefully I'll have her when I get back. But I still have to do things while I'm waiting on her. Just like you and I still need to be doing things while we're waiting on the Lord. It's not about inactivity, but it's about expectedness. You know, if you look up the Hebrew word, and by the way, this is like a really old Hebrew word that they use for wait. And it can actually go a few different directions, but the one that fits most with the passage here means to be bound to. Did you ever think about waiting as being bound to something? Seriously, to be tied with a cord to something. So while we wait for the Lord, we are tied to him. We find these instances that we have, that whatever they might be, that we can't deal with on our own, that we can't accomplish by ourselves, and so we're waiting on God. Well, we don't move forward on that one until he's coming with us. Or we do other things. Maybe you need that miracle. You need that movement of God in your life. You need that thing to get resolved. You need deliverance, or you need healing, or you need this or that. And you're waiting on God for that. Maybe you need direction. What am I going to do? Well, you still do something. You do what you know how to do until he shows you what you're waiting. You do what is in front of you to do each day until he gives you that direction or opens that door that needs to be opened. If you're waiting to get healed, you do what you can right now until he does heal. Whatever it is you're waiting for, you follow him while you wait. Now remember, Israel spent, because of their own doing, they spent like 400 years in slavery in Egypt. They spent 40 years in Babylon because of their own messing up. But you know, sometimes stuff happens because of what we do. Sometimes stuff happens because it happens. It just does. It's not always about our actions and reactions. But no matter what happens to you, you always have the option of how you deal with it. Many things come upon us that we didn't want to happen. We wouldn't have picked that. But how do we handle it when we get it? What do we do while we are waiting on the Lord? Well, specifically, I think in Isaiah, he's talking about waiting for strength. But if you pick a couple of these things apart, he talks about running, and then he talks about walking. And typically, I wouldn't put it in that order, but I'm not God, see, so this is the order it's supposed to be in. But think about this. What do you do more often? I know which one I do more often. I walk a lot more than I run. If I run, there's a problem. Okay? So, when you run, it's a relatively short distance. It's usually got a specific reason. If you have no reason at all for running, stop, okay? Just don't. If you're running for your health, fantastic, but have a reason. But walking, we walk all the time. We walk to get from one place to another. We move ourselves around. That is what we do constantly, is the walking. How great will it be that, yeah, for the short run things, those sprints that we have to do in life, that God is there for us. But how great that He's there for the consistent, daily moving around in our life, the walking as well. I think that's fantastic. I mean, the mountaintop experiences with God, those times when, oh my goodness, it's almost like you can just see heaven around the corner, right? They don't last. They're not like an everyday occurrence. They're extremely special. They're wonderful to have. But they're not like the everyday. But that everyday, constant awareness of the presence of God, that's fantastic too. That's amazing. To know every day when I get up, I'm not alone. God is with me. Every day, through whatever it is, that I don't know what's coming up in front of me. And I've reached a point where I'm okay with that. It used to bother me not knowing what was happening in the next 10 minutes or 10 hours or 10 days. But I'm good with it now. I have been trained by my Lord to be flexible. But I know I never go through it by myself. And He, the one that is with me, has already seen it. So He's not surprised by it. So as long as one of us knows what's going on, it's okay, right? So when we're waiting on God for strength, it's okay. Maybe you don't feel strong right now. It's all right. Do what you can with what's in front of you. The Bible tells us, and I don't have it here, it's in Ephesians, that we are to walk in the good works that God has already ordained. That's our job. He's already figured it out. He's already got it out there for us. It's already in front of us each day. Just do it. Do your day with the idea that God has got something going on for you today. Maybe it's somebody you're going to interact with and meet. Maybe it's a situation that you're going to be able to overcome. Maybe it's one you just have to rely on Him for. But He's got it all planned out. We just have to move through it. So, each day, while you're waiting, we start from Christ. We start from Jesus with everything. How do I do this? Why do I do this? What do I do? Where do I go? Start with Jesus. Okay? If the particular activity has nothing to do to honor Christ or have anything to do with Him, and as a matter of fact, maybe doesn't honor Christ, maybe we don't even need to do it. Start with Christ. Walk with Christ. Have this attitude that God is with you. Whether you're running or whether you're walking, He's with you. Walk leaning on Christ. Do you guys ever have to lean on somebody else to walk? That's kind of tough, isn't it? There have been a few times that I've been to the doctor and pretty sure it was the dentist last time. I mean, they had me smooth knocked sideways, okay? I didn't feel any pain at all, but I couldn't walk straight either. My wife had to help me get out of the place. So sometimes we got to lean on other people. But lean on Jesus all the time. And then make sure that our goal as we're going through the day is walking toward Christ. Walking towards something with Him. Now, like I said, I go to work tomorrow. I work 5 days a week. Except, blessedly, I've got that school schedule, so I get some summertime off, and I got like 3 days off during Thanksgiving coming up. I really like working for the school. I do. If you got to have a job, it's a good one to have. But I go to that job with the idea in my head that I'm serving somebody other than the superintendent. I'm serving my God wherever it is I happen to be. When I was sorting garbage at the recycling plant, I was serving my God. I loved everybody that I could in that place, in His name. when I'm dealing with students, and I don't push what I believe on anybody else, but my belief drives my love for them. My desire for them to succeed in life. It is based on knowing that they are created by God. And they deserve respect for that creation that God has done. And they can become so much if they can get some help. So that drives me. And whatever it is that you're doing during your day, let something of God drive you to the goal. Be walking, moving to Christ, with Christ, and from Christ in everything. I think that's a good lesson we get from Isaiah 40. Now, there's some other passages that talk about waiting, and it's the same word about being bound to. In Psalms 27, 13 and 14, it says, I believe that I shall look upon the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. Now, there are some times, and I may have said this as well, there are sometimes, like, if I get sick or something like that, I know I'm going to get better. I absolutely know I'm going to get better. I have no doubts in my mind. None. Because I will either get better here or I will get better there. I'm going to get better. I am absolutely positive. One day, when I don't get better here, I'm going to be in heaven with my God. And that will be better. So I'm okay with it. But this says that I believe I shall look upon the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. While we're still here, the goodness of God is still happening around us. Yeah, even today, even in the stuff we're dealing with in our world, in our country, the goodness of God is still there. The goodness of the Lord in his people working through communities is still there. You're not going to hear about it on the news. It's not going to be broadcast anywhere because good stuff very rarely is. But the Lord is still at work in this world, in this nation, and in our community. And we still just need to jump in and be a part. So wait for his goodness to be shown. Lamentations 3:24 through 26 says this. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. It is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. I love that. Now, the word quietly sometimes, you have cultural issues. And word usage issues sometimes when we read Scripture. So it doesn't mean that you need to wait without saying anything for God. It's not what that means. But we wait with our spirit quieted, with our soul quieted, with the assurance that God will move, that God will show up, that God is working. So I don't have to be all upset and excited about it. I don't have to be all scared about things. I can quiet my soul while I wait on the Lord. And when you can do that, that's amazing. You can get through some stuff. You can get through anything. If you can find that way. You can find that reason to hold on, to wait on God, because you know he's got the whole plan figured out. And quiet yourself before him. And wait to see what he's going to do. So waiting quietly. Not that we don't talk, but that we're not running around like crazy. Psalms 130, 5 and 6 says, I wait for the Lord. My soul waits. And in his word I hope. My soul waits for the Lord more than watchmen in the morning. More than watchmen for the morning. Now, the thing is, if you're a watchman on the wall, and you had that shift that ran from about midnight to 6 a.m., and I did this for a while. When I was younger, I was a security guard, and I worked the night shifts. I did midnight to 8 shifts. I did like 12 to midnight shifts. I did all kinds of stuff because other people didn't want them, so I took them. I made money. I was young. I didn't need sleep, right? So I can tell you, one time in particular, I worked for UPS as a guard. And I was in Oklahoma, so, land there is flat. And so I was guarding their parking lot. It's getting close to 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm watching out on the horizon, which is a long way away in Oklahoma. But I'm watching out to the east, and I can watch the sun start to rise. And that part of the sky way out there start to lighten up. And I know my shift is coming to an end soon. I'm out of here in less than 2 hours once the sun rises. So I get it. The guys on the wall, they didn't have a watch. Their shift was over when the sun came up. They were waiting to go home. They were going to go to bed. They were ready to do some other stuff with their life than stand on a wall. So they really, really wanted the sun to come up. That's how we should be waiting for God. Watching. Just like we're watching for the sun to come up. Watching for him to show up. Watching for what he's doing around us. There's a lot of times he might be moving around you and you don't even know it. You could be sitting there praying and saying, God, please do this, and God, please do that, and all upset because you don't see him doing anything, but because of your panic and lack of quiet, you're not noticing what he is doing. That he is moving things around you. That he's taking care of you through it. How many things that God does to interact with our lives do we absolutely miss every day? It's got to be a long list. He's constantly watching over us and guiding us and protecting us. Man. So be watching for him and what he's doing. This one's tough. Psalms 37, 5-8 says this. Commit your way to the Lord. I bolded that because, gosh, that's important. What we're doing, whatever it is that we're doing, whether you're a student or retired or in between, commit it to God. And that will level out a lot of things for decisions you make and how you do things. Commit your work, your life to him. Trust in him, and he will act. He will bring forth your righteousness as the light, your justice as the noonday. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Y'all catch that part? It's up there on the screen if you can see it again. Wait patiently for him. Fret not yourself over the one who prospers in his way, over the man who carries out evil devices. Psalms was not written yesterday, but it could have been. We got people around us and in our world today that are prospering from all kinds of stuff. They're carrying out evil devices left and right around us, and proclaiming them as not only right, but righteous. But you know what? We're not supposed to fret over that. Oh, we have a part to play. We need to do what is before us to do, but it does not need to consume us in anxiety and fear. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not yourself. Why? Why not worry about this stuff? Because it tends only to evil. If you let this stuff that goes on around us dominate your mind, then it's not going to lead you to a more righteous conclusion. It's going to lead you to evil thoughts. It's going to take you away from the peace of God. Now, we shouldn't ignore them. Not at all saying that. We need to speak truth in love. Every chance we get. And those things have to go together. We can't just go speak truth. We're not told to do that. We're told to speak truth with love. That's a hard message to argue with when we say it lovingly. When you genuinely, honestly care about the person you're talking to. and you're coming from a place of that care to tell them about the Word of God, it's really hard to argue with. Oh, they might. And they might even get mad at you for it. But you've done what you need to do. What we need to avoid doing is getting into shouting matches and yelling matches with people, because that's not right. He who talks loudest is not necessarily correct. Although our society would argue with that right now. But if we just keep shouting at each other, nobody's going to talk about anything. I think we need to focus on having discussions with people about a God that loves them, and Jesus who died and rose again, and what he says is right and what he says is wrong. But it all has to be part of that same package in that discussion. So we need to wait patiently, even now. So, finish up this. We need to wait for strength when we feel weak. We need to wait for goodness when we don't see any around us. We need to wait with a quiet spirit. We need to wait while we watch for the deliverance of God in whatever form it's going to come. And we need to wait patiently while we continue to do the right things that we're supposed to do. Why don't you pray right now and think about that? Just think about what it is you're waiting for right now. Be talking to God about that. It's okay to wait for stuff. It's all right to have things that you need God for. We need him for everything. Sometimes waiting takes a while. If you're waiting for something right now, what are you doing while you wait? How are you honoring the one that you're waiting for? You just talk to him about that. And if you guys need somebody to pray for you, if you need to make something public,